Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the House. House Bill 131 is a relatively simple piece of legislation. In 2014 and 2019, again, this body tackled the issue of city classification reform to the point where today we basically have cities of the first class, which is Jefferson County and Louisville, and home rule class cities for the rest of the classes of cities across the Commonwealth. Prior to that, there were 6 classifications of cities. However, when we did those reforms, we took some of the rather controversial matters out of those reform bills. Issues dealing with taxes, issues dealing with liquor laws, issues dealing with collective bargaining agreements. And so a few things got left in the status quo of what happened prior to those reforms. One of those things was the schedules of firefighters in cities that were formerly cities of the second class. There are 13 of those cities across the Commonwealth, and the restriction on those was that firefighters in those cities could only have a schedule of 24 hours on and 48 hours off. The city that I represent, Bowling Green, Kentucky, is one of those 13 cities. And folks from the Bowling Green Fire Department have reached out to me to see if we could change the law to allow for some additional flexibility in their firefighter work schedules. Over the years, several departments have moved from a 24-48 schedule to an on-48, off-96 schedule. And now there are a few departments that have or are exploring a hybrid schedule that they call a 1-3-2-3 schedule. That means that on the first day you work 24, you're off for 72. On the second day you work 48 and you're off 72 again. It's a hybrid between the two schedules I have already mentioned. So they want to explore those schedules but did not have the ability to do so. This would allow for those additional schedules to be looked at in those cities that were formerly of the second class, but it does preserve the status quo with any existing collective bargaining agreements and would make sure that collective bargaining agreements in cities that do have those, Bowling Green is not one that does, would still be justified and a part of that. Mr. Speaker, there is a House committee substitute. I would ask that the clerk please report the committee substitute.
Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 131.
Gentleman from Edmondson.
And on the committee substitute, I just got a little ahead of myself. The original bill only provided for the 4896 schedule, did not have the 1323 schedule that I mentioned in my discussion. This would add the 1323 schedule along with the 4896 schedule, so I would move for adoption of the House Committee substitute.
Motions for the adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion of the committee substitute? Seeing none, those in favor signify by voting aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. House Committee Substitute 1 is adopted. Gentleman from Edmondson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I have explained what the full bill does. It allows for the 3 schedules and anything adopted under a collective bargaining agreement to be authorized in those cities that were formerly second-class cities prior to the reforms in 2014 that were locked in 2015. Be happy to answer any questions. If there be none, I would move passage of House Bill 131 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1.